Hi, my name is Behrouz Amouzgar. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the basic concepts of the structures of corporations in Ontario. In Ontario, for your corporations, you have three major roles. So you have the shareholders of the company, who are in effect the owners of the corporation. The shareholders elect the directors of the company in the annual general meeting, and the directors in turn appoint the officers of the company. And the officers are the president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and different positions that you often hear about. One thing that's important to keep in mind is that the information of the officers and the directors, the names and addresses, are made public through the corporate filings. So when someone does a corporate search, they can see those information, but not necessarily the information of the shareholders. That is for private corporations. Let's have a brief conversation about share capital structures. A lot of corporations, smaller companies, are incorporated with only one class of shares, but oftentimes you hear about corporations that have more than one class. So the general principle is that when you have a class of shares, you have to treat the shareholders in that class similarly. So you can't have differential treatment among the members of the same class. However, when you have multiple classes of shares, depending on how the share capital has been structured, you can have differential treatment to the extent that that is allowed, of course. So let's talk about some of the concepts and get a bit more detailed as to what that means. So shares have what's referred to as attributes. So for example, a share can be voting versus non-voting, meaning that when it comes to major decision making in the meetings of the shareholders, holders of Class A shares, if the Class A is a voting class, get to vote. But on the other hand, for example, if you have a Class B non-voting shares, then they don't get to vote. They have no say in the decisions that the corporation makes. The second attribute that we want to talk about is called redeemable at the option of the corporation, which means that the corporation has the option to pay the shareholder and get those shares back. So now this can be at a set price or it can be at fair market value, depending again on how the structure is set up. But you can see how that can be of some value. For example, if your corporation is being used for income splitting purposes between family members, maybe a father is the main owner of the corporation and doesn't want, for example, the children to have much control and wants to be at liberty to be able to buy those shares back by giving them either a set price or fair market value. On the other hand, you can have shares that are retractable. So retractable means that they can be sold back to the corporation at the option of the shareholder this time. So the shareholder can elect either at a set time, depending on how the structure is set up, or at any time to request the corporation to buy back those shares. And then that's again either at a set value or fair market value. You can see the advantage of that from the perspective of shareholders. Some shareholders want to have some peace of mind that at a certain point in time they can perhaps cash out and leave. Another attribute that you need to take into account, which is really important, is dividend rights. So dividends are the profits of the corporation that are distributed among the shareholders. So not all shareholders get dividends. They need to have that attribute attached to them. When they get the dividends, they can have different priorities between different classes of shares. For example, you can set up your corporate structure in a way that says that Class A shareholders must be paid dividends before Class B shareholders are paid anything. And once Class A shareholders are paid, then Class B shareholders get paid a certain amount, and then Class C, for example. So you can have different priorities, and of course, with those priorities, the valuation of the shares changes. The other attribute that I wanted to have a chat with you about is right to distribution upon dissolution or wind up. So that means when you dissolve the company or wind it up, which of the shareholders get an opportunity to participate in the division of the assets of the corporation. Not all of them do. You set that up in your share capital structure. When you are incorporating in Ontario, you need to keep in mind that there's a section in your articles of incorporation that deals with your share capital structure. If you are looking for a customized corporation that has these different attributes, first of all, you need to talk to your accountant to make sure that from a tax perspective, it's advantageous. And also you want to make sure that you speak to your lawyer and ask them to set up the share capital in the way that you need it. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I invite you to watch the rest of the videos offered by us. Thank you.